Hello, Matthew Williams here. I'm just going to do a quick run through on this preliminary assessment on UFOs, or UAPs as they're being called by the Americans at the moment. And let's just bring up the document and go straight into it. And I'll just give you my thoughts and feelings as we go along. I'm somebody who's had a slightly more than passing interest in this subject over the years. So who knows? Maybe we can learn something through an education of sarcasm. But yeah, let's just bring this onto the screen a little bit more, just so we get the edges. There we go. I'm just looking at this from directly from the internet where it was being released. And just in case you're wondering where it's from, it's actually from dni.gov. Okay, so this is the official site. So this is an official release. Oops, a daisy, don't want to do that. Right, okay, so it says I still don't want to do that. Windows 10, thank you for making my mind up for me on things I don't want to do. Right, so it's from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So we definitely know that we can't take it too seriously then, because, yeah, when do they want to tell us what's really going on? Right, so this is the preliminary assessment. So it means there's going to be more assessments and it's going to be wider in scope. But this is just a preliminary assessment on UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. The release date was the 25th of June 2021, which I believe was last Friday just gone. It's an unclassified report, and the scope and assumptions. Now, first thing I notice is, professionally, I don't remember seeing many reports that seem to use a lot of color, but that's a bit weird. It seems like somebody who's a bit sort of like youth orientated perhaps has done this, but needs to kind of use a bit of color to draw you into certain areas. But it says this preliminary report is provided by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, in response to the provision in Senate Report 116-233 accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act, IAA, for fiscal year 2021, that the DNI, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, SecDef, is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and the progress that the Department of Defense Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, UAPTF, has made in understanding this threat. Okay, so what they're saying is, this is our report, this is our investigation, and this is what we found. So we're straight off the bat, right? We're not talking about what they did know prior, what they have been doing behind the scenes for many years. We're talking about this report, this assessment by these people now. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute, because this is their own report. This is not a wide report of everything that's been known going back in time. Okay, so this report provides for an overview for policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP. So right off the bat, this has to be seen as a threat, otherwise they can't be asked in investigating it. That's what they're saying. Potential threat posed by UAP, while also providing a means to develop relevant processes, policies, technologies, and training for the US military and other US government, USG, personnel, if and when they encounter UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence communities, IC, that's their terminologies they're using, IC, ability to understand the threat. Okay, so hang on. So what these guys are saying is that it's very hard for them to know what they're dealing with because they haven't had a framework for looking into this in the past. So forget Project Blue Book, forget the Condign report, forget forget hundreds of years of sightings, which have obviously gone down not just in religious texts, but now into the scientific realm, where photos, videos, and military sightings have been found. Forget all that. That doesn't matter. right? Because what these guys have to do is now work out how it affects these guys. So I find that a little bit hard to take, the concept that, they are only just winding themselves up into a position where they're going to be asking, well, why is this stuff? Right. Okay. So we'll come back to that. The director UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, is the accountable official for ensuring, and that's the other thing as well. They use the terminologies a lot, but it makes it a little bit hard to read when they could just use the long form. But okay, the director UAPTF is the accountable official for ensuring the timely collection and consolidation of data on UAP. Not to the public, though. Okay. The data set described in this report is currently limited primarily to US government reporting of incidents occurring from November 2004 to March 2021. I said we'd come back to this, didn't I? So they're only interested in looking at stuff that's happened recently. They're not interested in looking at the past. So all that stuff that's at Area 51, they don't need to talk about that. Have they got any craft or saucers, or have they met aliens? Don't need to talk about that. We're only looking at this stuff now that's in our narrow field of vision. Okay, fair enough. Better than nothing, isn't it? Data continues to be collected and analysed. I'm sure it has, for a very long time. Oh, yes. ODNI prepared this report for the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. UAPTF and the ODNI, National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, drafted this report with input from USD, INS, DIA, FBI, NRO. See what I mean? Because, do you know what all these terms mean? Right, with the input from United States Defense IS, I don't know. Defense Intelligence Agency is DIA, FBI is Federal Bureau of Investigation, NRO is National Reconnaissance Office, NGA is, I'm not sure actually, NSA is National Security Agency, Air Force, Army, Navy Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI, DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, NOAA, that's National Office of, it's the weather people basically, NGA, ODNI, NIM Emerging and Disruptive Technology, right? ODNI National Counterintelligence and Security Center, and ODNI National Intelligence Council. So, thank you for telling us what all those terms mean, but it's such a great, well created, little report, this. But you can see they do manage to give us the occasional bit of blue text to make it easier for us to see where things are. Even though we don't know what the terms mean. Right. Various forms of sensors that register UAP, it says under assumptions, various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments, but some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies. Okay. So that's an assumption. Okay. When you have multiple witness sightings, multiple sensors and radar and all things correlated, then that assumption becomes less likely. So that's just me adding that in there. But executive summary: the limited amount of high quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. Well, that's because you probably have more data than you're allowing out, I would imagine. We all know about those sequestering radar tapes, don't we? Yeah. And gun camera footage. Ooh, lots of that over the years has gone missing. But, sorry, I forget. We're only talking about 2004 to 2014. So 2021, sorry. Right. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, UAPTF, considered a range of information on UAP described in US military and intelligence community reporting. But because the reporting lacks sufficient specificity, as in specifics, ultimately recognized that a unique tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. Well, it does and it doesn't. I mean, you can elucidate information from a number of sources, even though you haven't standardized it. I mean, all you're saying here is that we can't work if we don't have a standardized form. Well, you know, no shit Sherlock, but you don't have a standardized form, and you can make assumptions, you can make assessments, you can make, you know, reports. So this is a bit of a fob off. It's like, you know, oh, we can't report on this very well because we just don't have the right boxes to tick. Oh, whatever. Right. Most of the UAP reported. As a result, the UATPF concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021. As a result, the UATPF concentrated its review on reports that happened between 2004 and 2021. Right? What has that got to see? As a result of the paragraph above, right? Reporting lacked sufficient specificity, so we only decided, as a result, to review reports between 2004 and 2021. You know, well, you're just saying that reports didn't exist that weren't good enough prior to that. That there isn't anything in the archives, that you don't have stuff going back that far, or that only the stuff that meets your box ticking exercise now is worthy of being looked into. I wouldn't say so, but it's just because you've decided that that is the criteria, so now you're creating reasons to enforce the criteria. So their decision, not necessarily our wish for it to be their decision, but they've decided only to look that far. So it says most of the UAPs reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon-seeking devices, and visual observations. Okay, so if it looks like a duck, it probably, looks, quacks, smells, it's probably a duck. So in a limited number of incidents, UAP reported appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. Okay, so if they're sensor errors, then again, you're going to have multiple correlations here, which, if they're sensor errors, all the data should say, well, it did this, then the sensor is going to say it did something else, and then something else is going to say it did something else. So in that instance, you could say the data was unreliable. Where all the data correlates, I would say, it's mostly going to be as it was recorded, I would imagine. But it does say in a limited number of incidents, reported to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. Well, yeah. So most of these UAPs are confirmed to be quite easy to capture on equipment, easy to lock onto, easy to photograph, easy to pick up on radar, and they don't believe there to be errors with the types of sightings that have been had. There's probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories. And these are, right, so this is, they will fall into one of the 5 explanatory categories. Okay, so airborne clutter. Well, what, birds? Radar chaff? Dust particles? Is that what they're saying there? Airborne clutter. Natural atmospheric phenomena. They're talking about inversion layers, clouds, rain. Yeah, right, okay. So it says US government or US industry developmental programs, i.e. it's their own secret stuff, in which case they're not going to talk about that if it is classified. So don't expect to be hearing much about any of that. If it is their own stuff, they're not going to talk about it. It's going to be covered by intelligence. It'll be blanked out. It will be redacted from the documents. So, yeah, and you can wait 30, 50, or 100 years to find out what's behind those blacked out documents. And then there's the foreign adversary systems. Ooh, have the enemies, have the Chinese, have the Russians got something really sneaky up their sleeves? Again, if they have, all information about that will be redacted. We will not be allowed to find out about it, because if we are behind them in terms of technology, or if we are trying to find out what it is they've got, we do not, and we would not probably want to let them know what stage of letting them know what we understand about where they are getting their stuff from. So it wouldn't be talked about. So there's two reasons why you're not going to get told, right? And then there's this wonderful and a catch-all other bin. That's what they say. So if it's in the catch-all other bin, i.e. they don't know it's American, they don't know it's foreign, and it goes into the catch-all other bin, does this mean that in that potential other bin, we'll be told what these reported sightings are? We'll be allowed to be told? I think not, because if they don't know enough about them, they're not going to talk about them until they know everything about them, because they want to be first to know. So therefore, classified. So I'm not seeing a great potential here with this type of speak to actually find out what's going on. I'm seeing the mechanism for them finding out ways to find out what's going on. I'm not hearing much about, and we're going to tell the public. Okay, I'm not seeing that just yet. So let's see whether that comes up later on. Okay, so UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to US national security. Yeah, are they from foreign governments, or are they from alien craft? Are they alien craft from out of the galaxy? Whichever way you slice it, if they're not cleared into US airspace, they're not meant to be there. So, of course, that's why they're interested. They may not need to be in US airspace. It could be an international airspace, but then it becomes an international issue. But the US are kind of dealing with this on how it affects them, how it affects their ships and their aircraft flying in international airspace. But they're not really saying how this would affect everybody else, and they won't be sharing their information with other governments, I'm sure. So yeah, they're only interested in themselves. So safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain. It's been like that for the last 20 years. There's not a hell of a lot more. I mean, what? You got drones. It's not the biggest concern in the world, is it? So what? These UAPs, what? They're more prevalent than drones? Is that what they're saying? So, yeah, in an increasingly cluttered air domain. So the UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are a foreign adversary collection platforms, like drones, or provide evidence of a potential adversary that has developed a breakthrough or disruptive technology. So, and would you tell us if you found out? Probably not. Consistent consolidation of reports from across federal government, standardized reporting, increased collection and analysis, and a streamlined process for screening all such reports against a broad range of relevant US government data will allow for a more sophisticated analysis of UAP that is likely to deepen our understanding. Some of these steps are resource intensive and would require additional investment. So, basically, when you've got all these radars all around the country, when you've got all these ships with radars and aircraft with cameras and all these satellites in space with cameras and radar and LiDAR and radio, and you've got all this equipment, right? You've got all of that. which you are paying to use every day for training purposes and everyday reconnaissance of the United States airspace, for ballistic missile threats, for satellite debris in space, for what's going on the ground, right? And what's going on in other countries. You got all that, but this is going to represent a massive new challenge of how to deal with what you already have to deal with. What? This is your daily job. What the are they on about? This is their daily job, right? So there we are. So limited data and inconsistency in reporting are key challenges to evaluating UAP. Well, I can guarantee you, right, when the shit goes down, the videos are taken, the radar tapes are taken, right, the witness statements are taken, right? Everything that they've got, radar from around the country, satellite imagery from space, it's all taken, right? The only thing that's different is instead of it being, oh, what are we looking at in this country to say, are they mobilizing and going to fire some weapons at us? Instead of doing some of that, you're going to have to do it as, well, what's this weird thing? What could that be? Because you're doing all of this anyway. You want to know whether Russia's amassing stuff on the border. You want to know whether, Korea are just about to fire a nuke into the, US. You're doing all that work. But isn't this part of the same work? I don't know. It seems to me like if you're saying it's pretty important, it might represent a threat, it might be breakthrough technology, it would be up there with all the other types of threat. Yeah? This is what you're paid to do. Why aren't you doing it? Why do you say it's going to be quite challenging to do it? It's what you do. It's like me saying, oh, it's going to be really hard for me to fly my aircraft because you know what? I might have to go and fly my aircraft. And I have got a pilot's license, but I might have to go out and use my knowledge and fly my aircraft. Oh my God, what am I going to do? It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like that. So it says, so no standardized reporting mechanism existed until the Navy established one in March 2019. Because the Navy had most of the sightings, according to these guys. But the Air Force subsequently adopted the mechanism in November 2020, but it remains limited to USG, United States government reporting. The UAPTF regularly heard anecdotally during its research about other observations that occurred, but they were never captured in formal or informal reporting by those observers. Well, you can still capture it. You just have to go out and get it, don't you? After carefully considering this information, the UAPTF focused on reports that involved UAP largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators. Because you can't trust the public, can you? Nah, it's got to be military aviators because they're the only people you can trust. Trained killers. Yeah, trust the trained killers. They'll always get it right. Yeah, and that were collected from systems we considered to be reliable. Well, yeah, we're lucky we haven't had World War III, isn't it? Because those systems have nearly caused that a few times. So considered to be reliable, in quotes. Right. These reports describe incidents that occurred between 2004 and 2021. Yeah, we've already been told that, thank you. With the majority coming in the last 2 years because the new reporting mechanism became better known to the military aviation community. Okay, we were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence. One. Okay. And in that case, we identified the object as a large deflating balloon. Okay. The others remain unexplained. I see. So, yeah. Right. 144 reports originated from USG sources. Of these, 80 reports involved observation with multiple sensors. Most of the reports described UAPs as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activity. Well, I guess the aliens don't work to your calendar, do they? So, yeah, UAP collection challenges. Sociocultural stigmas and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting data on UAP. Although some technical challenges, such as how to appropriately filter out radar clutter, to ensure safety of flight for military and civilian aircraft are long-standing in the aviation community, whilst others are unique to the UAP problem set. Narratives from aviators in the operational community and analysts from the military and intelligence community describe disparagement associated with observing UAP, reporting it, or attempting to discuss it with colleagues. Although the effects of these stigmas have lessened as senior members of the scientific, policy, military, and intelligence communities engage on the topic seriously in public, reputational risk may keep many observers silent, complicating scientific pursuit of the topic. Well, yeah, who've we got to blame for that then? So, yeah, who we got to blame for that? The types of people that are probably doing this report. You know, the types of people who in the past have made it such a ball ache for this information to get out and ridicule people, you know. So it says the sensors mounted on US military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAPs. Sensor vantage points and the number of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. Optical sensors have the benefit of providing some insight into relative shape, size, and structure. Radio frequency sensors provide more accurate velocity and range information. So that's radar, basically. But some potential patterns do emerge, they say. Although there was a wide variability in the reports and the data set, it is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis. Well, you should go back further than 2004 then, and not just stick to military pilots. But anyway, there we are. There was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around US training and testing grounds. But we assess that this may result from collection bias as a result of the focused attention on those sites, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance that to report anomalies. So to actually do the reporting of the anomalies. So whereas the military are now being steered towards reporting the anomalies, the general public haven't been quite steered to do the same thing, although pilots have been told they can without fear of reprimand or hurting their promotion chances, talk about UFO sightings. Whether they choose to do so is another thing. But they're saying that there's this kind of, they're trying to foster this idea that giving the military the task to report this is actually going to come up with answers, you know, eventually. So a handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology. In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. So this is out of the original 140/80 reports. Okay, so 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. Now, we don't know whether that means that they were giving off radio frequency energy, the UAPs, or whether we were bouncing radar at it and getting a return. So that's not specified, but interesting, that paragraph. The UAPTF holds a small amount of data that appears to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management. I'm not quite sure what they mean by a degree of signature management, i.e. I think they mean, that it's under intelligent control. So signature would mean intelligent and management control. Why don't they just use, terms like that? A high degree of signature management. What, like driving my car? Yes, signature management. Yeah, like grabbing hold of the steering wheel and driving down the road. Yes, signature management. You see, stupid bloody terms. Right. Additional rigorous analysis are necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts to determine the nature and validity of the data. We are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated. So they're still looking into it. So there we are. They've done their preliminary report. They're still looking into it. They still haven't got any answers. That's what they say. And would they tell us if they did? So UAP probably lack a single explanation. Okay. So the UAP documented in this limited data set demonstrate an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility that there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of the 5 original categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, US government or industry development programs, which they won't tell us about, foreign adversary systems, which they won't tell us about, and the catch-all other bin, which they probably won't tell us about, with the exception of the one instance where we determined with high confidence that the reported UAP was airborne clutter, specifically a deflating balloon. We currently lack sufficient information in our dataset to attribute incidents to specific explanations. Yeah. Airborne clutter. These objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or airborne debris like plastic bags that muddle the scene and affect an operator's ability to identify true targets such as enemy aircraft. Oh yeah, they're terrible, aren't they? Those bin bags, bin bags and carrier bags that float up to 10,000 feet and then go down into the water and then come out of the water and go back up in the air and then shoot off. Yeah, those bin bags, they are some very impressive bin bags. Natural atmospheric phenomena. Natural atmospheric phenomena includes ice crystals, moisture, thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrareds and radar systems, and then fly circles around the aircraft and then zoom off at high speed. Yeah, don't think so. USG or industry developmental program. Some UAP observations could be attributable to developments and classified programs by US entities. We were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. What does that mean? You didn't have the classified access to these projects. You weren't allowed to know. It wasn't within your remit to be able to ask these developmental bodies or groom lakes what they're up to. So you weren't able to confirm. So there's a big gaping hole there where you're not talking about it. And if you did confirm it, you wouldn't tell us. So big gaping hole there. Foreign adversary systems. Some UAPs may be technologies deployed by Russia, China, or other nations, or a non-governmental entity, like the Nazis living in the North Pole, or alien creatures living in the sea, something like that. Just use your imagination. Okay. Although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. Well, that's going to be fine, because I'm sure there's loads of scientists out there that would love to help you, but you're going to have to let them in on the information. Now, you're not going to like doing that, are you? So, yeah. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allow us better to understand them. The UAPTF intends to focus additional analysis on the number of cases where UAP appear to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. Well, I tell you what might help, right? I mean, it's just me, right? Well, get rid of these 720p cameras, that you have in your aircraft, and let's get some 4 or 8K cameras, right? Like gun cameras are like 8K, and let's get some thermal imaging equipment that's like 8K. Then you might be able to see a little bit more detail. Because do you know what? Whenever I see footage from war situations, it's always the fuzziest crap I've ever seen. It's like you've gone back to the bloody 1980s, VHS camcorders. That's what military footage looks like. And I don't know whether that's because they don't want us to let us know how good the quality of stuff is they're actually using. But it seems to me like film cameras that were attached to boats and aircraft from a long time ago. Film cameras seem to be getting a lot more detail than some of this crap they've got on their aircraft today. And let's face it, folks, right? Yeah. This year is a 4K gimbal stabilized camera, yeah, and it costs about 200 quid, right? And when the military is prepared to spend about $1 million on a camera that goes on an aircraft, you think they could make it 4 or 8K? So there's just a little suggestion for you, because we're living in 2021. There you go, free of charge. A little bit of advice there, right? So UAP threatened flight safety and possibly national security. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Yeah. So I could have written this report if this is what they're going to say. Yeah. UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger if some instances represent sophisticated collection against US military activities. What, you mean like when they beam down laser beams and deactivate nukes? You're not going to talk about that, are you? Oh, sorry, it goes before 2004. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, you don't want to talk about shit like that, do you? Yeah. Oh, what about those aircraft that disappeared? Just gone. You're never found again. Oh, yeah. And weren't taken by UFOs. No, of course. Anyway, ongoing airspace concerns. So when aviators encounter safety hazards, they were required to report these concerns. Depending on the location, volume, and behavior of hazards during incursions on range, pilots may cease their tests and or training and land their aircraft, which has a deterrent effect on reporting. The UAPTF has 11 reported of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. Yep. Well, it's those plastic bags again, isn't it? At 30,000 feet. Potential national security challenges. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. Not that you would tell us if you thought it was, because you'd be scrambling to get hold of that technology for yourself. We continue to monitor for evidence of such programs given the counterintelligence challenge they would pose. Yeah, exactly. And even if this was your technology and you were flying it to test out American aircraft and military stuff to see if it could work, yeah, you still probably wouldn't admit to it, because it'd be better to pretend it's some other governments and go, what is this stuff? Because then you're not going to have to roll it out and show the public what magic stuff you've got behind the scenes that you don't want the public to know about. It could be US technology all along. And you're playing this game of blaming others when it might just be you all along. But that way, this covers your back, doesn't it? So explaining UAPs will require analytic collection and resource investment. Oh, here we go. Now we come to the money bit. We need more money. We need more money. What? More money than you've already got? More money than you already use to analyze all this stuff that you do on a daily basis? Really? Wow. How many hundreds of billions do you want then? What's it going to take? A couple of staff? 20 staff? 100 staff? 100,000 staff? They're not making any suggestions here what exactly they need and how much more work it's going to take, and whether or not all they need to do is maybe take a little bit of what they're already doing and give a little bit of time to this and not cost any more money. Yeah. So there you go. See, they can't say, oh no, we'll take a slice of the pie we already have. No, we've got to make the pie bigger. You see, that's how they work. Yeah, they just want more money. And let's not forget, trillions have been lost into the intelligence world. Trillions of dollars have just been wiped off. You know, not billions, trillions. Yeah, just like gone into the black world. Yeah. So, and now they want even more. So here we go. So, in line with the provisions of the Senate Report 116233, accompanying the IAA for fiscal year 2021, the UAPTF's long-term goal is to widen the scope of its work to include additional UAP events documented by a broader swathe of US government personnel and technical systems in its analysis. As the dataset increases, the UAPTF's ability to employ data analytics to detect trends will also improve. The initial focus will be to employ artificial intelligence. Well, it's not that intelligent. Machine learning algorithms. They're just using fancy words here, like and what next? And mobile apps, which are very clever, and Apple computer will solve it because we will have apples. It's like, come on, yeah. We're going to use things, just things, science things, to cluster and recognize similarities and patterns in features of the data points. As the database accumulates information, you'd need a lot of data to start making those assumptions. Yeah, you'd need a frig ton of data to start feeding it into our artificial intelligence machines. You ain't going to get no data out of a small data set. Okay, so it's going to have to be a human thinking there's something going on here, because an artificial intelligence will probably tell you that it needs to kill all humans. That's all it's interested in. Right. As the database accumulates information from known aerial objects such as weather balloons, here we go, high altitude super pressure balloons, that's two types of balloons, and wildlife, just birds, machine learning can efficiently can add efficiency by pre-assessing UAP reports to see if those records match any similar events already in the database. So what they're saying is, we really need to know what birds look like on radar, because we don't know that, because we've not been doing this for a long time. And balloons, we've got no idea what balloons look like. Right? Bullshit. These people can tell you to within a couple of feet where a whale is in the ocean, right? With sonar. They can tell you to within a couple of meters in space where a piece of space debris is, how big it is, and what it's made out of. If somebody launches a new satellite and sends it on an unusual trajectory, within an hour or so, they know exactly where that is. And they started listening to its transmissions and trying to work out what it's up to. These people know everything that's in the airspace, yeah? I mean, there are things that will appear on radar screens, as there are little blips that'll appear and disappear and things, and you never kind of get to know what they are. But if you can correlate them with several sources, you can probably work out what these things might be. But are you telling me that these systems that they've got, right, aren't able to now basically work out a large group of birds or tell a balloon from birds from a plane? Really? In this day and age? I don't think so. I think what they're saying here is we need to do all this incredibly hard work to be able to work out what's in the sky, because we don't know what's there. They have to have been doing this for the last 50 years and honing this down because they don't want to get things wrong. Yeah. And when you have a large group of birds flying through the sky, they're going to be sending up fighter aircraft to go and intercept them, because it's like, whoa, what's that? What's that? So that's going to be happening all the time. Scramble them. Oh, it's just some birds. Scramble them. Oh, it's just a balloon. Scramble them. Oh, I don't know. It's just a plastic bag. Scramble them. It's just a drone. Right? Do you not think by now these people already have this system? because it would save them scrambling a lot of aircraft and causing a lot of shit. So the fact that they're going, oh, it'd be really nice if we had a way to work out what a weather balloon was and what. Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah, whatever. And it says the UAPTF has begun to develop interagency analytical and processing workflows to ensure both collection and analysis will be well informed and coordinated. What? What, you mean you're just going to ask the NORAD to let you in on their information? You're going to ask the NRA and the NSA to tell you what they already know. That'd save you a bit of time, I think. Yeah. The majority of UAP data is from the US Navy reporting, but efforts are underway to standardize incident reporting across the US military services and other government agencies to ensure relevant data is captured with respect to particular incidents and any US activities that might be relevant. The UAPTF is currently working to acquire additional reporting, including from the US Air Force, USAF, and has begun receiving data from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, civilian radar. Okay, although the USAF data collection has been limited historically, the USAF began a 6-month program in November 2020 to collect in the most likely areas to encounter UAP, and it is evaluating how to normalize future collection, reporting, and analysis across the entire Air Force. The FAA captures data related to UAP during the normal course of managing air traffic operations. The FAA generally ingests this data when pilots and other airspace users report unusual or unexpected events to the FAA's Air Traffic Organization. In addition, the FAA continuously monitors its systems for anomalies. Yeah, because they happen quite a lot, and they're not necessarily weird things. Generating additional information that might be of use to the UAPTF. The FAA is able to isolate data of interest to the UAPTF and make it available. And then it will be subsequently not available to the public because it'll now be in the intelligence hands. So thank you very much. The FAA has a robust and effective outreach program that can help the UAPTF reach members of the aviation community to highlight the importance of reporting UAP. Yeah. Expand collection. The UAPTF is looking for novel ways to increase collection of UAP cluster areas when US forces are not present as a way to baseline standard UAP activity and mitigate the collection bias in the dataset. One proposal is to use advanced algorithms to search historical data captured and stored by radars. Sounds good. The UAPTF also plans to update its contingency interagency UAP collection strategy in order to bring to bear relevant collection platforms and methods from the DoD and the IC. Now, the thing is about what they're talking about here, right? The way I read it is if you start putting together a massive data set from radar from the past, that is really cool. And you probably will find some things and you're going to learn some new stuff. But has this not already been done? And if it hasn't been done, why hasn't it been done? And it could be used to better understand what is radar clutter and what is possibly a stealth aircraft from a foreign government flying in to be undetected, right? That's why I think this has all been done. It's all been done. Yeah. I think they're just rolling out the concept to act dumb. Like, oh, do you know what? Radar, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Radar. Yeah, I think we should do a thing called radar. Yeah, should we do radar? That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, radar. It's like, yeah, we've already got radar. Thank you very much. So I'm not entirely convinced by this argument, but it sounds good. But it should be what's already part of current workload, current scientific interest from the people who make things like radar. Yeah, it should already be part of their work, because this is what they do. They have to make radars which can tell that's an aircraft, that's a bird, that's weather, and that's a UAP, an unknown. They have to have systems like that. And there's massive development into filtering systems to take the weather off so you can see the aircraft. Because if you don't do that, you just have a big, massive load of weather on your screen. That's what radar sees. You filter that out to see the aircraft. And then if you filter the aircraft out, then you'll see the weird stuff. So what they need to do is talk about the fact that they've been developing these filter systems since the dawn of radar. This is not new. This is old news. But how far have they gone with it? Will they tell us? And they're not going to tell us. If they invented a system which finely tuned their radars, looking at historical data, would we be told for the next 30 years? No, because they wouldn't want the enemies to be doing the same thing, because they've already done it and they're probably doing it. So to talk about it here and say, oh, maybe we should do this, means they probably had it 30 years ago, because we're talking about it now. So they probably had it 30 years ago. So, right, increased investment in research and development. The UAPTF has indicated that additional funding for research and development could further the future study of the topics laid out in this report. Yeah, more money. Such investments should be guided by a UAP collection strategy, UAP R&D technical roadmap, and a UAP program plan. Maybe this should be done under the auspices of somewhere like NASA. That might actually have the scientific technical expertise to be doing something like this. So, definition of key terms. This report and UAPTF databases use the following defining terms: unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. UAP, which means airborne objects not immediately identifiable, the acronym. Anyway, I'll just scroll through this because that's basically it. Okay, so it's just saying a UAP incident, a UAP report, what they're talking about. So that's it. That's it, basically. And then there's an appendix in here that says the Senate report accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act, fiscal year 2021. Senate report accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021 provides the DNI in consultation with the SecDef and other relevant heads of USG agencies is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by UAP and the progress of UAPTF has made to understand this threat. The Senate report specifically requested the report include a detailed analysis of UAP data. Well, I wouldn't call this a detailed analysis because this is a preliminary report. So they've just given us numbers. Okay, so it's not a detailed analysis. Okay, and intelligence reported collected by or held by the Office of Naval Intelligence, including data and intelligence held by the UAPTF. So all we've got is generalization. So the Senate report specifically requested that the report include specifics, and all we got was generalizations. So I think the report kind of failed on that point. Okay, number 2, a detailed analysis of unidentified phenomena data collected by geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, human intelligence, measures and signatures intelligence, measurement and signatures intelligence. Right. Well, geospatial would be to do with human intelligence around the globe. It could mean satellites. Signals intelligence would be radio waves, listening, picking up unusual signals, and could also be radio waves, including radar. So it could be signals from radar. Human intelligence, well, that's people out in the field, going to other countries, trying to find out what the Russians are up to, what are they developing, spy versus spy, buying information, hacking. Human intelligence, well, I didn't see any of that talked about in this report, okay? And measurement and signatures intelligence, well, whatever that means. But measurement and signatures intelligence, I'm thinking signatures, they're talking about types of maneuverability and ways that things can be scientifically measured. Well, all they've done is they've talked about the fact that things do have fast speeds and can zip off at various speeds. But, I mean, they haven't talked specifically in this report. They talked generalistically. So, again, When they say they wanted a detailed analysis, I don't think this is detailed. Okay, and it says a detailed analysis of data of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which was derived from investigations of intrusions of UAP data over restricted airspace. Did this mention FBI at all? I don't think this mentioned FBI at all, apart from saying we might be speaking to them at the top. And that was it. Throughout the middle of it, nothing. Okay. A detailed description of interagency process for ensuring timely data collection and centralized analysis of UAP reporting for the federal government, regardless of which service or agency acquired the information. So you can break it down into 2 paragraphs. They said, well, look, the Navy started doing it 4 years ago, and then the Air Force started thinking maybe we should do it 2 years ago. And that's it. Job done. I would not describe it as a detailed description of interagency process. This has failed on that front. Identification of an official accountable for the process described in paragraph 4. Right. They have said that he's called, this is his job title. They haven't said who it is. They haven't named the person who it is. So, you jammy bastards, you got around that one quickly, didn't you? Yeah. His name is the director for looking at this stuff. And we're not giving you his name, but he's the director for the stuff you're interested in. That's all you need to know. Right. Identification of potential aerospace or other threats posed by the UAP to national security and an assessment of whether this UAP activity may be attributed to one or more foreign adversaries. Well, they said there's potentially a threat, although, it hasn't been defined whether there is a danger. There's just a potential for danger, right? And nothing has been said about foreign adversaries, nor would it, I don't think. So that's a bit wishy-washy. So they didn't kind of come through on that one because, they wouldn't, would they, really? They wouldn't want to admit that they knew stuff about foreign adversaries. And 7, identification of any incidents or patterns that indicate a potential adversary have achieved breakthrough aerospace capabilities that could put US strategic or conventional air forces at risk. Well, if they've been ordered to bring this information forward, it is not here in this report at point 7. And would they? I don't think they would. Behind the scenes, there may be discussions, but we would not be party to that. This would not be given to the public. I'm sure of this. And in paragraph 8, recommendations regarding increased collection of data, enhanced research and development, and additional funding and other resources. Or just allocating some of your massive already, burgeoning pie to this. That'll be fine. Just give a little bit of the pie. 1 or 2%. That'll be fine. You don't have to ask for any more money. Just give 1 or 2% of the pie of what you're doing in the intelligence world right now to deal with this. And that'd be sweet by me. Yeah. But I don't think they'll even want to give it 1%. I don't think they'll give it 0.01%. So there we go. That's my off-the-cuff reading from top to bottom. It's my first time reading it fully. I skim-read it before, but it's my first time reading it properly. And I think pretty much like everybody else, I'm not impressed. So rather than going into any more speculation, I will let you make your comments about what you think, and I will answer your comments maybe in a live stream. We'll do a little bit more on this, but yeah, for now, I'll let you absorb that 1 hour of riveting nothingness. So, did you learn anything? I didn't. Not really. Not much more than I already knew. Are they taking it seriously? Well, they've done this sort of thing in the past. So, what's different about this? And what are they telling us? Well, we don't know what it is. Is it a threat? Well, if you go back to if you don't just go from this window like 2004, in the 1950s, they were firing guns all over all over Washington and all over California at things going through the sky that they couldn't hit. Aircraft in American airspace picked up on radar and visible and photographs taken, and they were firing guns. You know, and nobody knows what that was. Yeah. So there you go. Is this a threat? Is it a threat? Potentially, they say it's a threat. Well, if you look in the past, it was definitely a threat. So why can't you come to those conclusions? Oh, because we're only looking at a narrow little now. We're not interested in the past. People in the past were stupid, so we're only interested in now. Really? What do they say about history? Ignore history's lessons and you are more likely to repeat its mistakes. So there you go. If you're only going to narrow your little look down to, you know, a very tiny little window of 2004 to 2014 and only narrowing that window down to sharp focus in the last 4 years, it's no wonder you haven't got much to talk about. Bloody hell. So anyway, with that note, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. And if you did, then do not press the like button. We don't like that sort of thing. Thanks very much.